Welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into the issue that's currently tearing apart the emotional core of CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful. In one of the most tragic and heartbreaking arcs the show has ever seen, we're now witnessing the final chapter in Liam's journey, a story marked by denial, hidden pain, missed signs, and irreversible consequences. The latest developments confirm what many longtime viewers feared, but hoped wouldn't happen. Liam is gone. It all started with subtle warning signs, moments that at first seemed small, but in retrospect, were ominous clues that something was seriously wrong. Liam, who had been a vibrant and energetic presence in the lives of his loved ones, began to experience bouts of dizziness and fatigue. While reading to his daughter Kelly, he lost focus, his speech faltered, his words became jumbled. He brushed it off, not wanting to worry anyone. He continued, believing or perhaps convincing himself that it was just stress or lingering effects from previous traumas. He told himself he had to be strong for Kelly, for Hope, for everyone. But it wasn't stress. It wasn't exhaustion. And it wasn't going away. It was terminal, and the clock was ticking long before Liam realized it. Tuesday's episode brought about the terrifying culmination of all those warning signs. The moment everything changed forever. A moment that will haunt viewers and the characters for years to come. That night, Liam was home alone with Kelly. After putting her to bed, he tried to rest, but his body was failing. The tumor in his brain, which had been silently growing and weakening him over time, had finally reached a point of catastrophic failure. While Kelly slept, a loud bang shook the silence of the house. Kelly, frightened by the noise, rushed out of the room and witnessed a scene no child should ever witness. Her father, Liam, was lying unconscious on the floor. Blood pooled beneath his head from a painful fall. Kelly froze, her young mind trying to make sense of the nightmare before her. And then, panic. In tears and shock, Kelly reached for Liam's phone. Luckily, her father had set up an emergency contact, and the first person on the list was Hope Logan. Kelly pressed the call button. On the other end of the line, Hope heard the voice of a terrified child. Kelly's words were broken, her sobs uncontrollable. She couldn't explain everything, but she didn't need to. Hope knew from the moment she heard Kelly's voice that something was terribly wrong. She ran. Without hesitation, Hope called an ambulance and rushed to Liam's house. Every second felt like a lifetime. She replayed Kelly's words in her head, praying that she'd misunderstood. Hoping, somehow, that Liam would be okay. That this wasn't as bad as she'd heard. That he would be okay. But when Hope arrived, reality crashed in. The ambulance was there. The paramedics were working frantically. Blood was everywhere. Kelly lay in the arms of a neighbor, sobbing uncontrollably. And Liam. Liam wasn't moving. Hope screamed his name, running toward the gurney, begging for answers. At first, the paramedics said nothing. Their faces said it all. Liam was still alive, barely alive. But his pulse was fading. He'd lost too much blood, and the brain hemorrhage from the fall was already critical. At the hospital, Hope paced the waiting room, holding Kelly, shaking. Time passed forever. Then the doctor appeared. His gaze ended it all. Liam died on the operating table. His body, weakened by the tumor, had suffered massive internal trauma and massive blood loss. There was nothing more to do. He was gone. Hope collapsed. The weight of the loss hit her all at once. She cried out, unable to breathe, her knees buckling as the doctor handed her an envelope containing Liam's medical records. Inside were scans, notes, files. Everything Hope had never seen. Everything Liam had hidden from her. He had suffered in silence. He had known, or at least suspected, that something was wrong. But he had kept it a secret. He hadn't told her. He hadn't told Beth. Hope opened the file with shaking hands, reading the truth for the first time. The diagnosis. The prognosis. The words inoperable and terminal circled in red. Finn's notes. The timeline. And then it all made sense. Dizziness. Memory loss. Physical fatigue. Emotional distance. Liam had died in front of her and she didn't even know. Hope's pain was compounded by guilt. The realization that he had carried this burden alone crushed her. She thought of all the times she had been angry with him, distant, contemptuous. And now, there would be no more goodbyes. No more forgiveness. No more time. Steffy was told next. The news hit her hard. She knew Liam's time was limited, but she had hoped for more days. More time. More memories to make. She had planned to tell Kelly slowly, carefully. She thought there would be time to prepare her daughter. But death didn't wait. Liam died suddenly, violently, alone on his floor while his daughter slept just feet away. Steffy's grief overwhelmed her, and it quickly turned to anger. At Finn. At the doctors. To herself. She blamed herself for leaving Liam alone. She blamed herself for not telling Hope sooner. She blamed the world for taking Liam away before his time. Kelly had been kept from the hospital, but eventually she would need to tell. And Steffy and Hope would be the ones to tell her. Together. Two mothers, one broken family, standing in the ashes of what had once been. Funeral planning began in silence. Bill was devastated. Wyatt returned, reeling from the sudden loss. Ridge tried to be strong for Steffy, but even he broke down when he realized the enormity of Liam's death. At Liam's memorial, photos from over the years played on the screen. His childhood. His years with Hope. His journey as a father to Beth and Kelly. His mistakes. His victories. His quiet strength. The man who loved deeply, even if he didn't always show it. Hope stood at the podium at first speechless. Then she read a letter she'd written to Liam the night before. A goodbye she'd never been able to say. Steffy sat in the front row, holding Kelly's hand. Kelly didn't understand. She just wanted to see her dad again. She kept asking why he wouldn't come back. No answers. As the bold and the beautiful moves through this tragedy, the aftermath will be long and painful. Hope will carry the burden of unspoken guilt and love. Steffy will grapple with regret and the heavy responsibility of explaining the truth to Kelly. Bill will rage at the world that took his son away from him. And Kelly and Beth will grow up with only memories and images of the father who loved them both so deeply. And for viewers, Liam's loss marks the end of an era. A flawed, human, emotional, loyal character. A man who often didn't have the answers, but always tried to do the right thing. A man who deserved more time. Rest in peace, Liam. And thank you for joining me today as we say goodbye to one of the bold and the beautiful, most complex and unforgettable characters. Stay tuned and subscribe for more updates as the series navigates the aftermath of this devastating chapter. A story of painful loss, missed opportunities, and unrelenting guilt. As the dust settles around Liam's tragic death, the emotional wreckage is being excavated piece by piece, and no one feels the weight of this tragedy more than Bill, Liam's father. From the start, the story of Liam's final days has been marked by silence, a silence that grows into secrecy and eventually into irreparable regret. The man who should have been by Liam's side in his final moments in the hospital, holding his hand, whispering one last loving message, is no longer there. That man is Bill, Liam's father. And the reason he wasn't there is now painfully clear. The man who accompanied Liam to the hospital after he collapsed wasn't his father. Wasn't his brother. Wasn't even the woman he loved most. It was Steffy, the mother of his child, the woman who watched him deteriorate day by day and who, in the end, decided to keep it a secret. Steffy was the only one who was with Liam when he passed out. She saw the symptoms worsening: dizziness, confusion, fatigue. She saw his energy dwindle each day, his inability to talk without blinking to focus. She knew about the inoperable tumor. She knew it was terminal. But she made a fateful decision: not to tell anyone. Not to call Bill. Not to call Wyatt. Not even to text Hope. Steffy's intentions weren't malicious. She was acting out of compassion and protection. Liam had asked her to keep the truth to herself, and she respected his wishes. But that choice came at a terrible cost. Because when Liam collapsed on the floor, bleeding and unconscious, there was no time to go back and fix anything. No time to make another call. There was chaos, panic, and finally, death. As the hospital lights flickered on the emergency room doors and doctors fought tooth and nail in a never-ending battle to save Liam's life, one man remained oblivious to the crisis unfolding: Bill. The father who had fought so hard to be a part of Liam's life, who had fought rivals, family, and even his own children to take his place, was nowhere near his son when Liam took his last breath. And when the news finally reached him, it was like a wrecking ball. Bill, the billionaire tycoon, the ruthless tycoon, the man who had controlled every outcome, could do nothing. He had received the news too late. His son was gone. Forever. And there was no way to bring him back. No amount of power, influence, or money could rewrite the events of that night. Liam died without his father ever knowing he was dying. The pain was immediate, but it was the guilt that gnawed at Bill. He replayed their last conversation over and over in his head, a bitter argument filled with resentment and pride. They hadn't spoken since. He was angry. Liam had drifted away. And Bill, in his arrogance, thought he had time. Time to make things right. Time to apologize. Time to be a better father. And now, after Liam's death, Bill found himself drowning in regret. He sat silently, staring at old photos, his hands shaking as he looked into the face of the son he'd never truly known, and who'd never had the father he needed. Bill saw now that while he'd been busy building his empire, Liam had been fighting alone. A battle he'd lost without ever hearing the words, "I'm proud of you," from his father's lips. A battle he fought silently because he didn't want to be a burden, even to his own blood. Bill would never let go of this guilt. He would carry it with him. He would carry it with him every time he looked at Kelly, knowing that she would grow up without a father because Bill wasn't there when he needed her. He would carry it with him every time he looked at Steffy and remembered the pain on her face. He would carry it with him when he talked to Wyatt and they both realized that the Spencer men had lost a brother and a son and never even saw it coming. There was no redemption for Bill here. Not really. He could apologize. He could be angry. He could grieve. But the truth was, nothing could erase the silence that had defined his relationship with Liam in the end. The silence Steffy had sworn to maintain, the silence Liam had chosen, the silence that had cost them all the goodbyes they needed. Bill stood alone now, not as a powerful businessman, not as the head of Spencer Publications, but a father who wasn't there, a man who had everything but his son. And as the bold and the beautiful moves through this devastating loss, we'll see how Bill's grief has transformed him. Has it destroyed him? Has it humbled him? Has it pushed him to be better for Wyatt? For Kelly? Or has it driven him deeper into the isolation he's built around himself over the years? One thing is certain, Liam Spencer is gone. And the man who should have known, who should have been there, will never forgive himself for not being there.